Is this a political lifeboat for the people or just a new life raft for the political elite? Today on Policy on the Go, we take a hard look at the newly rebranded ADC coalition. Can they restore faith in Nigeria's democratic progress, or are we watching a recycled version of the same old game? In a political climate marked by deepening economic hardship, growing insecurity, and a dangerous erosion of public trust, comes the unveiling of the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, and they stand as a unified platform for Nigeria's biggest opposition figures, and I believe it marks one of the most significant political realignments in recent years. But beyond the headlines and the high-powered endorsements, one question lingers: is this a political lifeboat for the people or just a new life raft for the political elite? Today on Policy on the Go, we take a hard look at the newly rebranded ADC coalition. Can they restore faith in Nigeria's democratic progress, or are we watching a recycled version of the same old game? So the real question is, in a country where the electorate is used to being disappointed, what makes a political coalition credible? To tackle these lingering questions, I have with me Emmanuel Ikeagu, political analyst and political strategist. And I also have Nazil Sunusi, public policy analyst and Pan-Africanist. It's a pleasure to have you both on the program. I'll start off with you, Nazil. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. So we'll go right into it. What do you make of the ADC coalition's emergence at this time? Do you see it as a response to national crisis or a strategic power play ahead of the 2027 elections? What's your take on this new emergence by the ADC?
Thank you so much for having us once again. Permit me to begin with this. The African Democratic Congress, ADC, has emerged as a unified opposition, and I must say that this is a commendable move from the opposition leaders, because the importance of a strong opposition party cannot be overemphasized, as it ensures the survival of our democracy and it prevents one-party system and ensures checks and balances. And moreover, it provides an alternative platform for the people to effect change when they are dissatisfied with the current leadership. Having said that, I believe that the unveiling of the ADC is a strategic move from the opposition party trying to strategize ahead of the 2027 election for them to capture power. But for now, I cannot give a definite and categorical answer whether this coalition is a lifeboat for the people or it is just political strategies from the opposition leaders for them to capture power. But most importantly, let us give them a benefit of doubt to see whether they are just organizing themselves to capture power or they are there for the interest of the masses. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Nazio. Let me also hear your thoughts on that, Emmanuel. Do you agree with the position that Nazio has put forward as well? What do you make of this ADC coalition?
Well, I slightly agree with his position. I would say that it depends on how the coalition evolves. Well, as we saw in last week, it's just starting off. And if it remains an elite gathering whereby the politicians are self-serving and are not looking into the issues, the people, and most importantly, if they are not fostering and giving hope, because this whole thing is all about hope. If the people not see that there is hope, for instance, I'll give you an instance. In 2015, when there was a similar coalition, this time around the APC, in the bid to wrestle power from the PDP at the time, They were championing hope as an agenda because the PDP at the time had plunged Nigeria into a political mess, so to speak. So the APC were championing hope. So if the ADC in this year coalition does not champion hope and the people cannot see the hope in real time being shown to them, then I don't think it's going to be a lifeboat for any meaningful change.
Okay, but looking at the fact that the people in this new coalition, they are still the same cycle of people who have been in government, do you believe that this new political movement actually presents a credible alternative to the traditional power blocks that we have now, that is the APC or the PDP? Because these are the same people. It's almost like we're still recycling the same people and all that. So how do you assess them as a better alternative to the people in power or the ruling party that we have now that is in power?
Credibility comes from presence, proof. It's not just in preferences. Nigerians need to see an actual change. They just wrestle power from the opposing side and all that. I'll give you an instance also. In 2023, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi at the time, his campaign was championed on credibility. And Nigerians could also feel that hope. So if it's not championed on that credibility, Nigerians may not really back it with the full force it should. It should be more than just sound bites and giving speeches and meetings.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me also hear your thoughts on that, Nazil. Just because you seem to be coming from a more optimistic point of view. So how do you see this coalition as a better alternative to the power blocks that we have currently on seats?
With regard to your question, I believe for us to believe them as a credible alternative or as a credible coalition, for them to garner the trust and credibility, they must demonstrate a well-defined policies, and they must be able to manage their internal democracy. Because we have seen opposition parties unable to manage their internal democracy. So it is beyond conference, press conference, or online activities. We want to see a situation whereby the new coalition is able to manage their own internal democracy. And even though some of the opposition figures, we believe that they have a proven track record. So, but they must go beyond that press conference to demonstrate to Nigerians that they have a well-defined policies, programs that differ from the ruling party, and how they are going to execute those programs. And we don't want empty promises. We want realistic and achievable promises.
All right. So now still with you, Nazil. You know, Raf Nwosu, who is the founding chairman of the ADC, he called it a new beginning, right? I want to know, in your view, what would a true new beginning look like in terms of development, policy, and public governance as well?
I don't think that it is a new beginning, as my brother asserted that we have seen a situation where the opposition leaders will come together and unite just to capture power. They will use every rhetoric to deceive Nigerians that this is a new beginning, or this is the best party that will rescue you. This is what APC did to Nigerians in 2025. So I don't think that it is a new beginning. We will not believe that it is a new beginning until that they are coming out telling Nigerians that this is what we intend to do and this is how we intend to do it. The people are saying this, we must assess their track record, whether they are people of integrity or they are just political actors who can use any elements necessary to capture power. So I don't think it is a new beginning. I think it's just a strategic move from the opposition leaders to capture power in 2027.
All right. So let me come back to you, Emmanuel. I came across an article that you actually wrote on this particular topic, and you said that without a radical shift in the mindset, that the coalition actually risks becoming just another packaged political experiment that is doomed to fail. So, what policy signals do from your standpoint, what mindset shifts rather do you think we need to see? And of course, the political signals that we need to see from the ADC coalition that would indicate a serious interest in, of course, youth employment, social protection, with the issue of insecurity and as well as economic development. What mindset shifts do you need, or do we as Nigerians need to expect or see from this coalition to ensure that we actually get to that place where the economy is better stabilized?
Okay, the mindset should be that there should be policies that are human-centric. For instance, in recent times, if you look at the Buhari administration and the Jonathan administration, and even what we have now, you would notice that GDP is kept rising, but it did not affect the average human on the streets. So the policies that the new coalition should be able to put forward should be one that is going to affect down to the grassroots. It should be a sort of town economics, not just the one that affects the top one, like the top group. I don't know if it's just the few at top. So if it's not trickling down to the average person on the streets, whereby they feel that they don't need to know that, okay, the GDP is growing, but they can't afford their cars, they can't feed, and the state of hunger keeps rising, then nothing is really going to change. It's just going to still remain a packaged organization.
All right, thank you so much. I will take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll delve more into the conversation. So please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back. You're still watching Policy on the Go, coming to you from Gringo TV. Now, let me come to you, Emmanuel. I'm still staying with you, first of all. How do you think that this new coalition should handle the economic reforms taken by the current administration if they get into power? That is, for instance, looking at the subsidy removal, the inflation, floating of the naira, and all of that. Would you advise that they revise or reinforce these policies? Because of course they've come out because according to them the reforms taken by this administration has done more harm than good. So if peradventure they get into power, how do you advise that they approach the policies taken by the current administration?
Well, first and foremost, I would say the approach at which the current administration handled some of the reforms, in my opinion, were not the way they should have handled it. For instance, starting with the abrupt ending of the fuel subsidy, which plunged people into a panic mode. So, in my suggestion, I would say if the ADC should win, depending on who is the front runner and who eventually clinches the tickets, in 2 years' time or next year, I would say they should revise some of these policies, starting with the fuel subsidy removal, being that it's affecting down to the average Nigerian on the street. And until they can have a transparent process whereby we can see where the finances of a fuel subsidy removal is being channeled to, then I would say it should remain as it is. Because right now it's being said that there is a removal of the fuel subsidy, but it's not beneficial to the average Nigerian on the street. It all boils down to the Nigerian on the street.
But the president has made it known that I mean the reason for this reform, because even though the fuel subsidy might seem harsh to, of course, the average Nigerians, but it was taking a toll even on the economy itself. So I mean the reason for doing that was that it was not sustainable for us to keep subsidizing the fuel even for the average Nigerian. So I mean how would you now look at it from that, because this is eventually supposed to help to stabilize the economy, if you want to look at it objectively from both angles. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, if you want to look at it from both angles, it's to stabilize the economy, but then it's the economy to help the people and not the other way around. If the people are dying and the state of hunger keeps increasing, then something should be done. There should be a sort of reset. It's not like we're in China of Mao Zedong, whereby people are dying in their thousands, but because we still need to have a strong economic front, we keep up with the same strategy. So there should be a reset.
Hear your thoughts on that, Nazil, as well. What do you think about that stance? Do you think there's a need to take a reset or revise the economic reforms taken by the current administration? Peradventure ADC gets into power come 2027.
Uh, I think we, even if the ADC was able to capture power, I think the removal of fuel subsidy is necessary. However, the way and manner the current APC-led administration remove it is not proper. For you to remove fuel subsidy, you need to put the necessary plans. For instance, issue of transportation, you need to subsidize the transportation sector, and the money that we got from the removal of the subsidy, where are we going to channel it to affect all Nigerians? So I think removal of subsidy, even during the last election, all the presidential aspirants, including Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, all of them vowed to remove the fuel subsidy if they were elected into office. So I believe it's just the way and manner that after you remove it, how are you going to handle the situation? That's what matters most. How are you going to use the resources you got from the removal of the subsidy, maybe to invest it in health sector, food sector, or to invest it in agriculture? If we are to invest the money in agriculture, that is good step, because agriculture is the only sector that has the capacity to absorb the unemployed Nigerians. If we are to diversify our agriculture sector, I believe all the issue of unemployment will be reduced drastically.
Okay, so then, staying with you, Nazir, how do you think that this coalition, still, if they get into power, how do you think they should respond to environmental pressures from, climate change to resource conflict as part of his national rebuilding plan, if they get into power? Because, of course, it's no doubt that this year, and not even just this year, the past few years, we faced serious high impact of climate change, and it doesn't really seem like Nigerian government has done as much as is needed. Of course, they're doing a lot of things, definitely, but we don't see, look at the amount of floodings we've had, even just the beginning of this year. It's only halfway through the year. So how do you think this aspect needs to be looked at, and there needs to be a re-strategizing to ensure that we get more effective results, especially for the most vulnerable communities?
Thank you so much once again for asking this very important question. Issue of climate change is a global issue that requires serious attention on each state, that is from each country. So Nigeria should not be an exception. We expect that if the coalition is able to capture power, they should put the necessary resources and attention on issue of climate change, and also we should invest in renewable energy. Nigeria, we have what it takes to invest massively in renewable energy. So that is necessary.
Okay, let me come to you now, Emmanuel. How do you assess the electorate in Nigeria, that is the average citizens that go out to vote? How do you assess their interest in sustainable development when it comes to making their choices? Or would you, because previous times we've seen how all it takes is a bag of rice and just basic things, and then of course they have votes, or the people that are in power have the votes of these citizens. So how do you assess their interest when it actually comes to making interest towards sustainable development, or making choices towards sustainable development rather? Or is it just about who can just put food on the table? What needs to change in the way Nigerian electorates make their choices?
Well, from my analysis so far and from the respondents I've had with people, the primary thing that almost everyone is concerned about is reform of INEC. Because if INEC, first and foremost, is not reformed, every coalition that anyone is doing is practically a waste of time. Because we also happened in the last election where there were irregularities, so to speak. Then, speaking of the people's disposition, they just need a credible leader who they can trust. They just need somebody who is visionary. And if that person emerges, Nigerians are ready to key behind whoever should emerge. But the question is if their vote would count. Because time and time again, Nigerians have all been hyped up and ready to vote. But it turns out that their votes or their hopes are being dashed on the polls because what they go in expecting is not the outcome that they get out at the end of the whole thing. So the most important thing is if their votes are going to count. Because we speak, most Nigerians have lost hope in the next coming election. Some people are not even interested.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. So, finally, as we wrap up the program, what would you say are the biggest pitfalls that this coalition must avoid if it truly wants to offer a different future for Nigerians? Just your final thoughts on that.
My final thoughts on that, if they want to avoid pitfalls, is put their egos aside. Because right now, we can clearly see a front runner who the people can resonate with. If they can put their egos aside and align behind that person, then it's going to be a huge success. Otherwise, it's just going to go back to the same failed alliances and all.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Let me also hear from you, Nazir. Your final thoughts on what this coalition must avoid to ensure that at the end of the day, it's all about the Nigerians.
As you rightly said, they must set aside their personal interests and come together as a united coalition, and whoever emerges as the flag bearer of the party, they should support him and canvass vote for him. So that is also my submission.
All right, thank you so much to my guests, Emmanuel and Nazir, for joining in on the program. It's been a pleasure hearing your thoughts on this particular topic. As Nigeria continue to grapple with relentless inflation, food security, and a widening gap between government and the governed, one truth that is painfully clear is that this moment demands more than political theater, but it demands leadership that actually listens. We need movements that are rooted in real policy ideas and sustainable growth that, of course, puts the people at the center. And this time, Nigerians are watching, and they are not watching quietly, like we can see. That's a wrap on today's episode of Policy on the Go, coming to you from Green TV. Till next time, it's bye for now. I'm Tony Ogubanjo.